a hard time saying that. Oh, it just stopped my recording. Wow. Guys, this is the second video. What happened, I'm literally working with channeling fairy energy right now. Because I made a quick movement, my phone interpreted that as wanting to take a picture, so it stopped my recording, literally started it over. So that's why I'm uploading two videos. I was going to, I even took my glove off to deal with it, but this is fairy energy. I'm kind of like, I have goosebumps. It's literally fairy energy. Make no sudden moves. That's the other part of the lesson, apparently, that I'm supposed to teach you. Make no sudden moves when you're dealing with a fairy. Fairies will come to you, is what I'm hearing, and that means that you might need to go to something if you're working with this energy. If you're calling in fairy energy, if it's not anything you physically manifest and see. I see fairies all the time. So what I mean by that is not the ethereal, the ethereal tiny things, and sometimes those show up too in their own interesting and like cartoonish, like 3D animated ways. But I'm talking about fairies that I see every day, interacting with fairies, interacting with women that literally, and men too, that have this energy of fairies. And again, literally running the gamut in this year of so many different archetypes of fairies that I have dealt with. You can't make sudden moves, because just like a hummingbird, if you make a sudden move, it will flutter away quickly before you could even catch it. They're flying so fast that hummingbirds, we can't see their wings. Another thing to remember is find a safe place to slow down. You're not supposed to slow down with everybody. You are supposed to find a safe place that you can be, because people like to catch fairies. That's it. And here's the thing, guys. I don't want to make any sudden moves so that it shuts my video off again. I can't believe that happened. When I tell you, this is what I mean by magic is real and that the universe is real. Yes, it's a phone, and yes, it's a thing that happened, but I have all kinds of interesting paranormal things happen when I'm doing readings, and I'm onto something with this one. The thing that they want you to know about the fairy energy is people want to catch fairies. So people may want to catch you, or people may be very infatuated with you, or very focused on you, or whatever. Okay, they want more of the mischief, the magic, the mayhem, the energy, the magic, the glitter, the sparkle, whatever that may be. And so what I'm thinking of is I'm getting a visual of being up north with my in-laws or earlier this year in the summer, or was it last year? I was in Michigan. It was when I was in Michigan. I think I have videos here from that time frame, and all of the kids were running around chasing fireflies, and they were catching them, scooping them with their net and putting them into the jar, and then taking them in the house and turning out the lights and having the whole moment, right? But what is a firefly supposed to be? That's another literal representation of a fairy. A firefly is supposed to be free. It's supposed to be outside so that it can photosynthesize and take up the light and soak up the energy and then make the magic that we see. It's not supposed to be contained, and we can do it for entertainment for a small time. But what the responsible mothers that were around me made sure those kids did was release those fireflies after a few minutes of playing with the kids, because their place is not inside to die. You are not supposed to be cloistered, captured, and contained. A fairy needs to be free to go and flit and then come back again. And a lot of us have gotten into connections, relationships, bought into the patriarchy. Yeah, I gotta talk about fairies and patriarchy because it's the truth. Men love to capture, or masculine energy loves to capture. Now here's the thing. I love talking to you guys from my breadth of experience, not from my breath, but from my vast experience being a bisexual woman, because it means I understand trafficking in masculine energy, and I understand feminine energy. So here you see very feminine energy for sure. But in some of my relationships with women, I certainly can traffic in more masculine energy depending on their feminine energy or their masculine energy, right? It just depends, right? So I can be super feminine with a more masculine energy, that's a woman, or super masculine. And when I say super masculine, it means that there would be the traits that we associate with masculine: protecting, providing, proclaiming, the things that we hear, all of the talking points that are in the manosphere, right? And that even means having to unlearn some patriarchy, because we all are indoctrinated with that patriarchy. There's a reason they're asking me to talk about this with fairies. I know what it is to feel masculine energy with a fairy or with fairies, okay? And what that means is that I remember meeting a fairy a while ago and feeling instantly, and I talked to them, because you all know me, I'm a chatter, right? So I say my truth, and I said to them, your energy is like Lord of the Rings. People often, and I could see, because of the work that I do, I could see how people had wanted to capture her, other people she had, had in her life, people that she had dated before, all of that stuff. I could see how people had wanted to keep her in that jar, and that as soon as they put her in the jar, then the relationship no longer went far, because fairies are mischievous and they are crafty and they will escape anything. They are supposed to. It's their design to never be stuck with anyone that they don't want to. They choose. That's the beauty of feminine energy, is they choose to come and they choose to go, and they actually power up when they go. And it was such an incredible lesson for me to learn up close with this fairy, because I got to feel so that I could teach what it is to encounter a fairy and to want to capture. My angels literally said, catch and release. I was so guided, so clearly, to not try to keep any of the fairies that were sent to me, but to enjoy, literally, remember dipping the beak, but to enjoy the energy they provided that was sweet, and then set them free for release, because they actually are happier that way when you aren't trying to tether them down and have them stay, but for a moment. Have y'all ever made like a new friend and like they're just like so amazing and you're so infatuated, even if you're a straight woman, and you ever had that experience, like a new friend or a new bestie or a new coworker or a new whatever, right? Totally straight. You don't have to be me, but have you had that experience? Then you understand a little bit of the pull of the fairy, right? That fairy energy may have been what your friend or new coworker or whatever was trafficking in. But I remember my angels guiding me so clearly, and they said, catch and release. She's not yours to keep. Enjoy the wisdom that she offers and the mischief that she brings. Take notes, write about it, learn about it, and decipher it. But do not be so caught up so that you get stuck. It's not supposed to, because see, it's very much like a jinn, guys. So follow me here. So this is, I know we're getting super mystical and super woo-woo, but a jinn would be like a genie. I've had the amazing experience in the last couple of years to interact personally with archetypes, mermaids, genies, fairies, okay? So while we think this is a fairy tale book that we put away as children, we exist in this realm. This is another dimension that you access, where you start to deal with these archetypes to make it more concrete and understandable and relatable to you. It's not necessarily that a mermaid swims through my living room. It's that someone with mermaid energy comes to me. Someone with fairy energy, the archetype. Carolyn Myss has a fantastic deck with archetypes. I've done readings with them before. I'll see if I can find them. I've got all my decks spread around me, so I'll see if I can put eyes on them and maybe pull a few. But archetypes are something that we're all working with. You are an archetype too. So one of the archetypes that I embody is the teacher, okay? So you can be the vampire, you can be the virgin, you can be the seductress, you can be the priest, you can be the monk. These are archetypes that we embody at various times in our life, and it's always changing. You might have one or two that are overarching, but you will step in and out of various ones. Well, fairies are an archetype in the spiritual realm. And that means mischief, magic, mayhem, and moments. Meaning it's not necessarily sustainable unless they want to own it. The second you try to force fairy energy into anything, they will literally escape. because they know that to be cloistered, to be kept, is for them not to be themselves, to be diminished and no longer be great. That may be an energy you're working with, guys. So you may feel instinctively, I got to get out of this situation. I got to get out of this relationship. I got to get out of this job. I got to get out of this body. Whatever you're called to do, when escaping is something that you fantasize about and it's all you want to think about, you have worked with fairy energy, or you're working with fairy energy, because it's teaching you how to get out. You guys get it? Fairy energy is teaching you how to get out. Back to the masculine energy of possession. Yes. I remember right at the beginning, and because my throat chakra is fully open and active, I say exactly what I think and feel, and I don't lie, and I don't pull. That's not an archetype. While I enjoy, and I have enjoyed the studies of fairies as they have been brought to me, I can dibble and dabble and step in and out of that energy, but mischievous escapism is not naturally inherent to me. And there is no judgment when I say that, because for a fairy, it's exactly the way they should be. Does that make sense, guys? But for me, it was for me to observe, to like step into the world, to take notes, to be the archetype that I am, which is a teacher and the professor, and to write down what is the fairy magic and plan, so that I can help you understand how to step into it for yourself, or understand if you're dealing with it. But when I said to that person, Jesus Christ, your energy is like Lord of the Rings. Like the thing about the ring, if you've not seen Lord of the Rings, is that everybody coveted this magical thing. We'll say this is the ring. And when they got it, and they would do anything to get it. They would do anything to get it. And when they got it, they had the most altruistic intentions. They were going to do good with it. They were going to expand with it. They were going to build with it. They were going to protect their people with it. But they got a hold of it, and they felt the power of it, and they never wanted to release it. See, fairies have power. Just like jinns have power, just like mermaids have power, right? Or sirens, mermaids, sirens, similar archetype, okay? So there is power in, and I've worked with all of these energies this year. I can't even believe it. Fairies also open portals, and I think that's why I'm being, it's 11 minutes right now on this clock. That's why I'm being asked to talk about this, because I've had the most incredible experiences with the fairies that I've been with this year. They've literally broken open my consciousness. So I would welcome in a fairy friend, but you do understand there are some rules of engagement. I'm going to go back to the ring in a second, because this is so important. The biggest takeaway of this lesson is do not try to possess them, okay? But that archetype of fairy energy will help you open up in so many ways and fill up your cup in the most delightful ways. I was just with an earth fairy in California, and I didn't even make any videos, which is so unlike me. Usually everywhere that I travel to, I always try to make a video for you, even if it's from my hotel room, even if it's looking at the ceiling, even if it's looking out a window. If I can't, if I'm with people and I can't show my face. And this girl, I know, would have been happy to make a video with me. In fact, I know we'll make content in the future for sure to be seen. But she's super comfortable, and she has her own content and channel and all that stuff. But I was with this earth fairy, this earth shaman, and we did mushrooms, which is earth energy, right? So I was with a fairy. It's so funny. When I was in Iceland, I was so drawn to and attracted to this fairy. I was with a wizard, another archetype. I know you're like, Monette, you're making this shit up. Stop it now. I tell you not one single lie. I was with a Nordic, Icelandic, Viking wizard. And can I tell you guys something? My angels are so good. Before I went to Iceland, they gave me a full channel. I'm having right brain, like pressure on my right side here, masculine energy. They gave me a full channel that I was going to encounter Odin. Look up Odin if you're familiar with, all the Marvel Universe and all that stuff, Thor, Odin, all that stuff. They told me Loki, I was at Cafe Loki when I was in Iceland. They told me that I was going to encounter a wizard. The only person that I told this to prior to going to Iceland with was a fairy, not the mushroom fairy, different. So this is like such a full circle cool moment. but I literally in the middle of the night, I got the most powerful channel. It just like rocketed through my body. And they're like, you're going to meet a wizard while you're there. You're going to deal with the Aurora Borealis, meaning the Northern Lights. And nothing happened in a conventional sense. Nothing happened the way I thought it was going to be. Even the trip that we booked, the fairy booked, I was with a fairy on the trip, and she booked a, like a midnight, like a nighttime cruise, and like I don't know if it was a little dinner or booze and cruise or whatever, but the weather would not cooperate, so we ended up seeing the Northern Lights in a different way. In any case, but this wizard takes us to a crystal shop. I know it's like three priests walk into a bar, right? A wizard, to a fairy and a professor, or a fairy and a teacher, a fairy and whatever I am, y'all. I don't know what I am. Shaman, high priestess, y'all know. Figure it out. Whatever you feel comfortable with. But we walk into this crystal shop. We are taken into by the wizard, this crystal shop, because wizards like to impress you with their baubles and things. He was such the archetype of exactly, right down to trickery, because wizards are tricky. Oh, so I love that I've been accessing this realm, guys, because I want you to see it the way that I get to see it. It's actually quite amusing after you go through some of the things. But we were in this crystal shop, and he was lavishing us with crystal gifts. No joke, guys. And this is one of the gifts that he purchased for me, right? The fairy got many of her own gifts too. He was in hot pursuit, actually, which is really funny, of the fairy, because of the energy that fairies traffic in. He wanted to contain her and keep her for him. That is literally, I can't make it up. It's such, I don't know if you guys saw it get brighter there for a second. That was really interesting. God. Anyway, this wizard ended up buying me this mushroom. Now, I was so attracted to it. He bought us each lots of things. He even picked out a beautiful stone that's blue for me specifically, which has to do with the throat chakra. He picked it out for me, and I allowed him to, because I knew that no matter his dark or light, that he was there and guided divinely to get something realigned with me, because that's what wizards do. They traffic in very magical, powerful energy. So even if I didn't understand it in full, I knew that that crystal was very specific. But this is what I gravitated to, because he did ask us what we wanted, right? He didn't just pick out everything for us. And so he asked what I wanted, and I couldn't keep my eyes off of this. And we were in the store for, I would say, maybe 30 to 45 minutes, confirmation. And there was a lot of things put on the counter and tabulated, because it was this old shopkeeper, and nothing was like the normal POS system that we have in America, where everything's just like tabulated and put in. It was all, she had to enter each thing by hand. It was such a cool experience, guys. But in any case, this is what I wanted. This is what I was gravitated to. And I really believe that your angels will guide you, and I pay attention to that guiding. And whenever I'm on mushrooms, I'm introduced to a new fairy. So when I met the fairy that I was talking about that was actually with me, I was doing mushrooms, and I was literally like a tunnel vision guided to connect with her in a meaningful way. When I was there, while I was not on mushrooms, they used a mushroom as a harbinger of almost like an arrow, like this way next, right? With fairy energy, again, it's all about flitting and flying and easy come, easy go. And you have to be okay with that. Otherwise, you'll get depressed like people do with the ring. I'm going to get back to that. So, and when I say there's a lot of things. I'm going to talk about that. But anyway, so the only thing I wanted out of the lovely things that he got me that I value and care about was this. And it was because my angels were literally saying, this way, sis. Literally, they were saying, go to the earth fairy. That's what's next. Meaning, she has a lesson for you. She has a portal to unlock for you. And my guys, and girls, this is exactly what she did do. And this is the magic of when you work with fairy energy. It was fantastic. We both unlocked major portals while we were working together. The mushroom trip was fantastic, and she is a vegetarian, I do believe, and so her body is really clean. What I mean by this is like her energy is very clean. You know, everybody always talks about diet and stuff, and y'all, I fight it. Let me tell you, let me full transparency, I fight it so much, but I know that they're leading me that way because I have a lot of Virgo in my chart, and in order to stay here on this earth and connect with you guys, they want me to clean it up like everything else. But here's what I'm telling you. I don't think it's a coincidence either that they guided me to this person. And here's something I've noticed about fairies too. They all are really good, clean eaters. Actually, the other fairy is a very clean eater as well. I used to like kind of like joke with her whenever we go out to eat. There was always something green on her plate that she's happy to eat. You know, she's not just like forcing it down and choking it out. She's like really happy and delighted to have like spinach or kale or a salad. Like fairies like greenery. It's real. I know it seems silly, but it's really a true thing. Anyway, this earth fairy definitely loves her greenery for sure and makes really conscientious, healthy choices. We did some indulgent stuff. She's like, I'm going to have some Pedialyte because I want to make sure that my body is okay. And I just love the energy of that. But what I'm saying here is this. We had this incredible mushroom trip and we both had very different experiences, but we both were birthing something and we both were coming back to life and we're both getting spiritual downloads. Me sitting in front of the screen today is as a result of that California trip with that fairy and the earth energy. She literally insisted in the best way on, she was like, we're really supposed to be on the mountain and da-da-da, and we went to the mountain and we reached the holy mountain. Okay, one spliff a day keeps the doctor away. We reached the holy mountain, and while no spliffs were consumed, there were absolutely mushrooms, and it was such a powerful realignment for me. Like, it's reinvigorated me and opened a new portal for me to see. And that's something else you need to know. Regarding attachment and fairies, there's always another fairy. And that's something, okay, back to the ring. It's perfect. It's a perfect segue. So do you guys follow me here? The wizard says, get what you want. And my angels were pointing me in the direction of an earth fairy. They were like, this is your new fairy friend. This is going to be a situation that helps you open something. She could be in my life. Let's say that she's only in my life for this moment. I mean, God willing, it's more. And we both, of course, are manifesting that. But let's say it's just for that moment. I knew that she was there and she had my back. She was ferocious too. She's a warrior. And so she had my back and she was just helping me in so many magical ways. Just like take the scales off my eyes. And I will tell you, it's funny because the wizard literally put me in the direction of it. And my angel said, pay attention, sis. This is the next earthen fairy. That's the gift. That's the portal. She has information for you. We've given her, I was watching cartoons with a fairy because that's a magical thing that fairies will bring you into. It really helps to elevate your inner child there. See, fairies play. So inner child work is also associated with a fairy. I'm literally getting downloaded talking points as we're going here, guys. I didn't make notes. This isn't a lesson plan. I'm just telling you what I've learned along the way. So it's really got me in touch with my inner child. And they're mischievous and they play. So, but also it's really docile play too. It's not always like dangerous or anything like that. It's just really fun. But there was a cartoon that I was watching and it was this person who was trying to get like they were an apprentice for some sorcerer or high priestess or witch or whatever, and they were being led, I'm seeing magic hour right here, they were being led to their magic hour. It's your golden hour. Magic hour, guys. Time for infinity. 888, the magician. Yeah, as above, so below. Over the magician's head is usually the 8. I don't know if it's on this card or not. You're shedding skin and you're walking into a new space. Fairy energy guides you and shows you the way. You see how he's pointing his staff? Fairy energy guides you and shows you the way. It's your golden hour. It's your time to play. This was a gift, actually, from a fairy's mother. That's fascinating. Wow. But I heard that so quickly. I heard that so swiftly and so clearly. Anyway, the person is trying to, become an apprentice, and they're weaving their way through. And really, the sojourn that they were on showed them that they had the power within them the whole time. And that they could defeat all these other archetypes that were coming in that were darker or lower vibrational. But each entity they defeated, or each helper that they met along the way, had new information to impart and something new to say and a new portal to open so that they could eventually, through play, find their way. If you are still watching this video, through play, through inner child work, through a little bit of mischief, magic, and glitter, you're going to find your way. Also understand that each one of those people along your path are not meant to stay. And I went through a lot of things in my life where my scorpionic 8th house helped me to understand to close doors and to walk away, and to be very okay with that, knowing that something may have served a full purpose and fully had your back and fed you completely. If you are trafficking in fairy energy, though, people will not want to leave you either. Does that make sense? So it won't just be that you may see a thing and it's the ring and you want to keep it. People may very well want to be attached to you. And I hear that's when tower moments come in, because it's not the thing to do, because you have fairy energy too, right? Fairy energy too. And you're supposed to go on your way. Because there's a new fairy that may come in that has something else to say. That doesn't mean you can't keep a multiplicity of fairy or friends, right? But it means that if it's healthy, they get to go about their business in life, and you do too. You come back to each other. Breaks are taken in and out. I learned a lot about breaks in fairies too. They need it to stay healthy. Otherwise you can like suffocate their energy. And so don't let anybody suffocate you, and be aware and cognizant that something that's so delicious can be overindulged with and overindulged in. And remember what I said about moderation? Little increments of deliciousness goes a long way. Okay? Easy for me to say. I literally deal with that in my real life. That's my great struggle. That's my great battle. That's my great, issue. Is moderation physically, food, comfort, yes? So I know what it is to overindulge and the consequences it brings. And so they're asking me to channel this vulnerably to you. Do not do that with your fairy friends. Anyway, you will be guided to your next helper, to your next portal opener, to your next situation, whatever it may be. Also, you will be fully understanding that you traffic in fairy energy. I think it's really funny that I've been moving my hands a lot and the video hasn't messed up. That was such a powerful interruption. Whatever I said right at the last few seconds of whatever the video I upload previous to this, pay attention, guys. There was a powerful message. A fairy energy literally came in and interrupted it. Okay, back to the ring, because this is the most important thing to understand. When people got in possession of the ring in Lord of the Rings, they tried to keep it, and they would hide it, and they would lie. They would tap into their lowest vibration every single time, no matter how elevated they were, no matter what kind of elven prince or priestess they were, or a fairy themselves. The most poignant memory is of one of my favorite actresses, Cate Blanchett, and she is the White Witch or the White Fairy, and she is absolutely gorgeous. When she walks, it's like she's floating, and she is so pure at heart and altruistic, such a humanitarian. Ever the idea of the Aquarius, right? Like it would be the Aquarius sign is what I saw personified in her. She cared about her land, her people, the kingdom, and peace. She cared about the animals, as elven fairies would do for sure. They're fantastic with little ones and animals too. And when she got a hold of the ring, as it was destined for her to do, the reason that you may get a hold of a fairy, or the reason you may be allowed to be in your masculine energy, because you will tap into masculine energy no matter how feminine you are, or you will cause someone to tap into masculine energy with you. And there is a great balancing that you have to do in order to maintain that connection. When she got a hold of the ring, it's my favorite visual. Now, CGI and everything has gotten so much better in the years, right? So it's so funny. If you were to watch it now, it might look a little kookier, not as great, but back in the day, this was cutting edge, okay? And she gets a hold of the ring, and all of that altruism goes out the window. All of that humanitarian energy goes out the window. All of that graceful peace and divine feminine beauty. And she is in her lowest vibration, and it's fascinating to see. It was such a powerful indication of the duality in our spirituality of Lilith and Eve. So she is Eve. She is Queen Mother. She is virginal. And then she gets a hold of the ring. And when she gets it, she says the most incredible, memorable thing. She spreads her arms and lightning strikes and the thunder rolls and her voice deepens and drops into octaves, and it's almost demonic. And she says, I will be the greatest fairy in the world, in the land, in the universe. Something to that effect. It's terrifying. I mean, again, watching it today may not be as terrifying as it was then, but when I watched it, I was still a full adult, and I was like, what? Out of all of the transformations, because everyone transforms when they get the ring, but out of all of the transformations, hers hit me the hardest. And you know why? Because it was an archetype they wanted me to pay attention to. Because I have that energy of teacher, high priestess, humanitarian to a certain degree. And what my angels were teaching me is that absolute power corrupts absolutely. When you get a hold of a jinn, a mermaid, or a fairy, you have a taste for a moment of a magic that is outside of you, or if you're trafficking in that energy, you have a taste for a moment of a magic that is inside of you. But you are called to so much humility, because absolute power corrupts absolutely. None of us are exempt. That's why when we see celebrities or YouTubers or whatever take off and we're like, God, they're different, they changed. I used to know someone who's passed away who said people's teeth, when they got whiter, she no longer wanted to hear what they had to say because they had like jumped shark and gone off the reservation. And they were like, she was talking about Paula Deen specifically. She's like, her teeth are too white. And it was a funny barometer that we used until she died about the change that happens when we step into the light of celebrity or lavish money or anything of that nature. Well, the ring is a representation of that. The Lord of the Rings is all spiritual analogies and warfare anyway, but the ring is literally that. What happens when someone gets power? Even the best amongst us, you know, what is the saying there? For the grace of God go any of us. Even the best amongst us are prone to losing ourselves with power. So when you get a hold of a fairy, back to the masculine energy, you will feel like, oh my God, this is so good, this is so delicious, so magical, this is so amazing. And you may want to keep them. And I'm so grateful for the training I've had with these fairies, because I felt that immediately with my encounter with my first physical fairy, right? Excuse me, immediately. And I said it to her within minutes of feeling it. I was like, girl, I just like had a flash, similar to what happens in Lord of the Rings. When you get the ring, you kind of see the future in a way too. And I had a flash, and I was like, oh, I have to be so very careful with your energy and you, because... And I said, and I gave her a little bit of information and wisdom so that she could carry it forward in her life. People will want to get a hold of you, and they want to hold on to you very tight. And the second they do is when everything dissipates. And she could reflect in her own way back on some of her experiences and relationships and see exactly how it went that way and exactly why her freedom matters to her so much. And so it was a very powerful lesson to learn. But I was tempted to touch. And what that means by that is I wanted to possess the energy of a fairy. And you can't. I can invite the energy of fairy into my life, meaning I can imbue that, I can be that, I can become that, right? And when you are around people, you will become like them. So a prophet, if you're not a prophet in the Bible, Saul was around prophets and he started to prophesy, meaning he got the gift of prophecy because he was adjacent to people that were immersed in their spirituality. So if you're around a fairy, you'll pick up a few fairy things. What do they say? Birds of a feather, but not just that, because it's more than just wings. It's about assimilation of traits that happens in any connection or relationship. It's not anything magical, and it's not even about the archetypes. You could be around your friend and you might pick up her accent or a few words, or listen to a favorite YouTuber. In my case, I had that happen recently where I had to stop listening to somebody because I didn't want to pick up her verbalizations and her mannerisms, right? I wanted to stay very authentic to myself. And we all are influenced, guys, and we're all able to be influenced, and fairies are very influential, okay? Because they live a life that looks very delicious, right? So when you get a hold of the ring, you are supposed to, see? And that's the magical thing. I think the ring, it literally just fell right out of my lap to a plate. Girl, y'all, did you see that? Did you see that? When you get a hold of a ring, it's literally hard to hold on to the ring because everybody else around you wants to get the ring. That's another thing to understand about possession, guys, as I'm just channeling this message here. When you're holding on to something, it will look very tantalizing to everybody else. When you release it, it loses a lot of that power and it loses its grip over you. So if you're ever in the dark side of fairy energy, then that's a survival tip for you, is to release. Because to hold on is to drive yourself crazy, like you saw in Lord of the Rings. And if someone's holding on to you, the only way that they get relief is to release. And that could be ebbs and flows. You're like, well, Monette, I want to have a relationship. I don't want everyone to always have to let me go. What you need to know if you're trafficking in fairy energy is that mini breaks are going to be necessary. Okay, it's just going to be a part of your life. It doesn't mean you can't have a relationship. It doesn't mean you can't be monogamous. It doesn't mean you can't have a partner. It doesn't mean you can't be married. It doesn't mean you can't have kids. It just means that little sips of the beak where sweetness is for you, inner child work, decompression, a bubble bath, whatever you need to do, that will be necessary. And you will have to articulate your needs and set your boundaries to make sure that whatever partner you end up with understands that. Travel is a huge thing for fairies. Literally, the archetype. They fly. They literally need to fly, okay? And trust, because fairies are usually very good looking in whatever degree, even if it's unconventional, even if it's not your type or whatever, they all traffic in energy. So if you're inviting fairy energy into your life, you might find yourself being more attractive to people as well. That's something else to understand. And that invokes jealousy, that masculine energy. That doesn't mean that women aren't jealous too. But what I felt in that moment with that fairy was the archetype of masculine energy. Yeah, where I was like, oh, I got to be careful with you. And I knew it. I understood exactly how careful I had to be. And my angels, y'all, they've been bumpers for me in all of these relationship dynamics that I've got to experience. The jinn, the mermaids, and the fairies. They've been like, girl, we love you so much. You're a professor. You're supposed to be recording findings, not getting lost in the crazy or the magic or the mayhem or the underwater sea or the glitter or the genie of it all. Okay, it's very easy, but in order to be reporting live back to you guys, I do get to kind of get carried away a little bit in the undertow. And that's something that you need to know when dealing with any of these archetypes, or if you embody this archetype, people will get carried away in you. And that means that you have to know where you end and begin, because others will never do that work for you. They will just want to be all in. They'll want to put you in the jar. They'll want to screw it down the lid. They'll want to put you next to their bed and then wake up and you're dead. Does that make sense? That's not your life. You need to find a happy medium. And again, I do not want to disparage relationships for you. It's incredibly possible. The Earth Fairy that I was just with, she's fantastic at relationships. And I'm not just talking about romantic ones. I have such an admiration for the way that she manages her siblings and her mother and her family. She is so intentional in a way that we don't often see. So don't think that it's all mischievous with fairies. Like, they're fully capable of connecting and locking in whatever situation they want to. But they always will have work to do, like we all have work to do. Anyway, that's the energy of fairy. Not too much of a reading was I supposed to give you. It was really about the channeling of my findings and understanding when a fairy is around you. And also, you see how when I was trying to hold on to it, it literally flew out of my hand. There couldn't be a better analogy for how to manage your energy when a fairy lands in your life. Don't hold on tight. Open your palm and let them come to you. And when they are ready, they will flit off because they have other work to do. But if you treat them right and leave them a few sweets, don't worry. They'll find their way back, and they'll do so happily and freely. And that's what you want to remember with fairy energy, whether you're embodying it and channeling it, or whether you are involved with fairy energy as a friend, as a lover, as a mother, sister, brother, whatever. Let them indulge fully in their free will, because the fastest way to kill the spirit of a fairy is to try to control it. You can question. I've learned a lot this year about questions and fairies. It doesn't go the way you think. You can hope for the best. But here's what I learned too, because I had been distressed. I had several fairy interactions, and some of them were distressing. Sometimes it was distressing, not all the time. When I met the Earth Fairy, I realized, like, oh, just like different personalities, there's different ways fairies are. This Earth Fairy shoots from the hip. There is no grift. There is mischief that she's tamed previously in her life. In our dynamic, shooting straight from the hip. No smoke and mirrors, no disguise. Straight up energy, literally. It's so funny. She's a fire sign, so this is orange. This is orange if you guys can't see. Fire sign energy, fire sign fairy, but a lot of earth energy in her too. So much grounding, probably from the way she eats and the fact that she camps for a living as part of her life, preserving the wildlife and taking care of the state that she's in. But no lies there within. That doesn't mean, and one of the things I just got to give credit to that fairy energy is that she was very candid and shared with me that in her life she'd been a mess and she'd had moments where it was off kilter. She had to get herself together. Who here can relate? Hey, me too. We all have that, right? And I really respected that because I realized that we all are evolving. Truly, we are all growing, and she grew. And anybody that would be in relationship with her, whether it was platonic or romantic, would not have a lot of emotional excavating work to do because she's taking care of her shit. She's gotten to the bottom of it. She shoots straight from the hip. There's no games there. She might be a fun person with inner child connections, and she'll camp and she'll do this and that and the third, and she'll have a great time and do a mushroom or three with you. But she is so solid and grounded. And that's the beautiful work that happens when you invite these different archetypes into your life, is you'll learn all the facets and different personality types. And I had so much respect for the way that she operated and the way that I got to operate with her. Everything was very clear. That's one of the things that I learned throughout the past couple of years, is that fairy energy can be not so clear sometimes because they don't want it to be. That's what I also learned with dealing with the earth fairy. A fairy that wants to be clear knows exactly how to do that, and direct and all the rest of that. Okay, and like I said, intentional regarding familial structures. Last thing here about fairy energy, they absolutely love their family. That's one thing I've noticed with every single fairy. They love their family, and it is actually really endearing and sweet. There has not been, I've met like 5 fairies in the past couple of years, and they have all had the most, and all of them different. So some of them might just have a relationship with this parent or that parent or these siblings or that cousin or that uncle. But what I saw with them was just love of community and also love of their tribe. So if it wasn't just their nuclear family, it was the love for their spiritual family as well. And I felt like that was such a beautiful thing to witness, because we can learn a lot from the fairies. They take care of their own. They have a loyalty ingrained in them. They never stray too far from home. And that's the very last thing I will leave you with. If you are in a relationship with a fairy, whether it's a bestie, a lover, a friend, whatever, please do not try to cloister them and put them in that jar, because if you treat them well, they'll never go too far. They will always come back to you. They will show up. They will be ride or die for you. They will support you. They will provide you with magic, with gifts, with whimsy, with inner child work, with portal openings, with comfort and love and all of the things, because they are fairies, and all of the most fabulous glittery things are exactly what a fairy is always destined to bring. So don't try to keep them, because when you release them, that's actually when they flourish and they love you even more. That is a little bit of fairy lore. So good sharing energy with you guys. That was a lot, yeah. Come back and join me next time. Watch both parts, because I think both are important. I was getting the channeling, and then they literally, boom, stopped it, and here we are, 40-something minutes later. We love to see it. All right. Fairy energy, you can also be it or invite it, but either way, there are rules of engagement like there is with any other archetype and sign. But know that if you are engaging with a fairy, that it is a divine assignment, and it is purposely given to you at this time. Come back and join me next time, guys, and we'll continue to evolve together.